Good afternoon. Welcome to the Outer North West Community Committee. I'm Councillor Emmy Bromley and the Chair of this Community Committee. Today's meeting is being live streamed on the Leeds City Council YouTube channel so that the public can observe the meeting without needing to be present. Could we introduce ourselves if we start with members first, then officers? And can I ask that you mute your microphones after speaking? So if we start from the left over here.
Good morning, good afternoon. Councillor Oliver Edwards, Guiseley and Rawdon.
Good afternoon, my name's Sonia Layton, Councillor Guiseley and Rawdon.
Good afternoon, Eleanor Thompson, Councillor for Guiseley Rawdon.
Afternoon, John Garvani, Councillor Horsforth and Rawdon.
Good afternoon, Councillor Ray Jones from Horsforth.
I'm Sandy, Councillor Lay from Otley and Yeadon Ward.
Good afternoon, Councillor Barry Anderson, Adlin Wharfdale Ward.
Hello everyone, I'm Councillor Caroline Anderson, also Adlin Wharfdale Ward.
Afternoon, Councillor Rick Downs, Otley and Yeadon Ward.
I'm Jola Pillay, Senior Project Officer at Connecting Leeds.
I'm Rupert Oldfield, Transport Strategy Team Leader at Leeds City Council.
Taj Reddy, Safer Stronger Communities Team, Leeds City Council.
Debbie Oldham, and I'm the clerk for the committee.
Mohammed Alamin, Localities Officer.
Nikki Barker, Engagement Support Officer for Inner West, Outer North West and Inner North East.
Thank you. Can I now ask the clerk to go through items 1 to 5?
Thank you. Under agenda item 1, there are no appeals. Agenda item 2, there's no exempt information. Agenda item 3, there's no late items. Under agenda item 4, could I ask members to declare any interests? I'll take silence as there are none. Under agenda item 5, apologies have been received from Councillor Campbell and Councillor Flynn. Thank you, Chair.
Fantastic, thank you. Moving on to agenda item 6, which is the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 11th of March 2024. Can members take a minute to look through these minutes and if they are accepted as a correct record? And can we get a proposer for that, if we are happy? And a seconder, and all those in favour? Fantastic. Are there any matters arising from those minutes?
Chair, I do have matters arising. In relation to minute item 8, which was the Community Committee appointments for 2024-25. Councillor Flynn was not present at that meeting on the 17th of June when the appointments were made to the outside bodies. However, since the meeting on the 17th of June, Councillor Flynn has confirmed that he is agreeable to being the Council's representative for Bramley Youth Development Trust and Extended Services North West Cluster. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. We now have reached agenda item 7, which is the open forum. This is the opportunity for members of the public to make representations or to ask questions on matters within the terms of reference of the Community Committee. Is there anybody that would wish to speak? You can raise your hand. Thank you. So, Victoria, I believe you're one of the finalists for Children's Mayor, of Leeds. So you have 2 minutes if you would like to give us a talk. And I will give you a little nod when we get to the end of that time. Okay.
Leeds Children's Mayor happens every year. and every year 5 that attends a school in Leeds gets to write a manifesto about one of the 12 problems, and I chose physical activity because it benefits health learning and health habits and stuff like that, and it also benefits in climate change and other problems. I'm going to read my manifesto now. Exercise is key for a healthy community. I will work with my school to organise a competition like the Olympics. This event starts in my school and then shown to the other schools. I will help them replicate my idea. The goal is to create Leeds Kids Olympic Games. All children can participate, competing in many different sports while the games are taking place. We will have a health advisor doing health checks and health awareness campaigns for the parents. I want children to move. I will create a brilliant exercise program with 5-minute videos about exercise and healthy habits from kids to kids. This will inspire children to exercise not just at school but at home and to keep a healthy lifestyle. These videos will be shared with all children in my school. I want to organise a sports campaign where children can learn and share their knowledge about the benefits for everyone of physical activity to parents, carers. This can be delivered at the same time as our day and other major sports events happening in Leeds, offering parallel activities, raising awareness of the importance of physical activity. I will organise the Leeds Kids Olympic Games, implement sports passports and improve our parks facilities. Let's make Leeds a more active and happier city.
Fantastic, thank you so much. Can we give Victoria a round of hands? It's really nice to do that. I wish you the best of luck, Victoria, and I think that's absolutely fantastic in terms of focusing on physical wellness and the fact that you included health checks in that. I think that would be absolutely brilliant to create an awareness among young people. I think the voting has now closed, hasn't it, unfortunately, but thank you so much for coming today and spreading importance of young people's voices in our city. I believe that there is another finalist in the Outer Northwest, and I will be attending on Thursday, and I really look forward to hearing the results. I wish you the best of luck, Victoria. Thank you. So now we'll move to agenda item 8, Leeds Streets for All. Can I ask the officers for their presentation, please?
Okay, I'll share. I've got a short presentation just to help you run through, which I'll go on the screen now, and then we'll have time for questions after that. If I can do this. Okay, Leeds Street for All programme is an online engagement session to try and understand travel behaviours in the communities. We ran the consultation at the back end of last year, and part of that consultation was that, request from the committee was that we'd come back and present our initial findings, a outline of the format of the evaluation report, and then a list of proposed potential interventions if suitable funding comes forward in the future, and allow people to have an opinion on that, maybe some guidance going forward. So if this works, oops. Okay, so in terms of just quickly, the public response was exceptional in your area, I think in the community area of the Outer Northwest. A lot of very, very good opinions from residents and others. It's clearly, the engagement we had at the previous committee, and that's been put out into all the various campaign groups and your local groups, and that has fed back into this report. There's been a lot of useful, very interesting local information. As you can see, the total of 3,500 people visited the site alone, which is very good. The contributions are always slightly lower, but still very strong compared to other consultations in other parts of the city so far. So I thank you for your support in that. In terms of, I know we've already shared with the pack the draft report, but I pulled out a few of sort of the mapping and sort of techniques for showing the data. There's a couple here one from the vehicles and parking section and one from the cycling section. It just gives you sort of a spatial or a graphical idea of where the most of the responses are coming from, and the larger the blobs of the numbers is effectively where there's higher concentration of responses on the drop-in map within the consultation. Not unsurprising where a lot of these are. I mean, Guiseley's well represented there, but a lot of the core routes, corridors and urban centres, as you'd expect, would have the highest marks. But, you know, clearly it also shows a lot of interest in vehicles of parking, as we noted before. Some examples of the stats there and some of the, you know, responses and types of responses, themes of responses. Quite an interesting split there, and I'd welcome you actually look to the report in a bit more detail and you can see more information on that. Very wide-ranging, very useful data for us and for yourselves to understand what your residents are saying in your local area. Again, going back to what we're already doing, because clearly there's lots of responses and thankfully our team are already involved in lots of things in that area already, and those sort of points, so there's some alignment already, it seems, which is good. Clearly there's just some examples of what again is in the report in terms of the current annual programme. That's what our traffic engineering team put out, which I know you're all aware of. That's a separate website, there's some examples there, and some of the local cycle and walking routes like the LC WIT development that we're looking at in your area as well, which is already happening, but the information coming through this online consultation will feed into that as well, we hope. Again, there's some road safety and collision analysis that we've put through to this as well. It obviously supports the wider element of Vision Zero, which is a whole huge different topic, but it shows basically some of the collision data for the last 5 years. And again, we've got like a heat map, which gives you an indication of where they are. Not necessarily surprising, but it just sort of shows that we're trying to feed that data that we have into this report as well to give us some evidence base behind why we maybe want to do interventions of that type in these areas. Again, this is really sort of strong heat map. It shows you where the responses are coming from. You can pick out all your urban centres there, I'm sure, your neighbourhoods. You know, there's lots of things going on in Guiseley now. We have done a lot of work in Guiseley in terms of the traffic work. There's been cumulative impacts there. There's been a whole host of transport interventions to hotspots around the area. So we are already working in the correct areas, but this is now giving us the nuanced little granular information from the residents, which is helping us to feed into that and prioritise better rather than just on one topic. It gives us a wider view of why people want interventions in that area. Part of the work we've done, we've actually developed an in-house tool to help us do the analysis. It's like a mapping tool, effectively. All the information is coded in, checked, and put into this application that we've actually built at the council across at Merion. This will populate as we do more and more community committees, so you'll have a whole understanding across Leeds, which once we've got that point, that allows us to do a district-wide analysis, but we can, in the interim, do sort of community committee area analysis on this, using this tool. So it's a very useful tool. Again, we're learning how to use this better over time, so I'd welcome any sort of comments you may have on those sort of things. Again, the actual document itself has our proposed, and I want to Frank that it's actually proposed, nothing's a given as such, just an idea of the interventions that we might gain using predominantly the information that's come through the consultation, feeding in what we already know, but it's predominantly what we've used in the consultation at this point. But I'd obviously welcome your views and comments on what's in there now, what you think we're missing, the general structure. Okay, that's roughly it, to be fair. Yeah, again, what we're hoping to get, and I've come into today, is an understanding of your views on the format. Do you think it's captured what you expected when we came at the first time? Any potential amendments and bits that you think we've missed and you would like to see in there? And any just general comments on the process so far as we're working through this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's very helpful and thorough. Do members have any questions or comments that they wish to make? Sorry, yes, Councillor Lay.
Thank you for that, Robert. Interesting, actually, when you look at the report and to drill it down to our local communities. Can I ask about sort of, I know it says what happens next in its broader sense, but what's your team's role in it? Because if I wanted to find out about how much of that 830 million is going to be spent in Leeds Northwest in our communities, or if I wanted to know how schemes were progressing, or if I had concerns about schemes that are in this, do I come to you or do I go to the officers involved that you comment or the report talks about? It's just knowing where I can go next.
I think, as this is a trial, not a draft version, stick with the current communication lines would be my recommendation, although I will take that back, Councillor. I think going forward, we are looking with other colleagues across the service of how we better look at responses coming through and feel that call. There's a separate project team that's developed that's working through that as we speak, so I would, direct you to use the same communication methods you have at the moment, but more will come back as we work through this process.
So I guess what we all like in Leeds Northwest is delegated decisions down to local levels, So I'm trying to, one of the criticisms of community committees is that not enough of the funding comes down to members to make decisions on, and that they're made centrally as part of a strategic vision that might be citywide, and they come to us often as, not always, but they often come as it almost feels like a fait accompli. Here's the scheme that we've worked up. We're now going to consult with you, but actually how much decision making ends up coming down to this committee. I don't know really what point I'm making, other than to say, is this a talking shop or will ward members actually actively be involved?
Again, senior management will probably be able to make a more specific decision on that. But the view coming from what we're trying to do now is encourage that really early engagement with the community, which effectively means with yourselves at this stage, so that any transport scheme, we have a good understanding of what it needs, and we've got community buy-in and buy-in from yourselves. It helps us feed that granular data. So this Streets for All sort of consultation, it's only online, we probably need to do a lot more going forward, but it provides us with that early data, which we know is on the transport strategy, so it's fitted into that. Currently, you may have conversations with our traffic engineering teams, but it's making sure that the strategic goals of the transport strategy we're adopting in 2021 are embedded right from the start, and that means early engagement with everybody here to understand that we've got a joined up process going forward. That's sort of what we're trying to get to, so they've got very early engagement, but again, it's early in the process. It depends how much information we get through and how we can work it going forward, but I think the wider goal is to have that early engagement with the key people that actually help us to make something that people want and use that will be successful.
Councillor Layton.
Thank you for the report. I've just got two questions, if that's okay. So my first one is quite specific to Tranmere Park and the review of existing footpath provision and access on Tranmere Park. There are no footpaths on the whole of Tranmere Park, so I'm just wondering what the plan is there and where that has come from.
Well, I think,
is it realistic? Just because of that?
Again, working through the data, these are quite high-level initial ideas that's getting drawn out of data. And you mentioned the point there is no path. That's part of the problem. There is no connection, safe connection, walking, cycling route through that area. So it's a gap in the wider network that we're looking at, probably from the LC Whip scheme, for a whole host of things to try and increase the connectivity of the active travel network, which fits into the wider ambition of having a city where we don't need a car, but also a city that can meet its net zero targets. So it's looking at that granular level. So we don't necessarily have a scheme that's going to fit that, but we've identified through the consultation that there's a gap that we may need to look at. So that's where that's come from, basically.
Okay, so it might not happen. Okay, and my second question was around access to the train station in Guiseley, which sounds fantastic. I'm just wondering, have you joined up with the parking fees side of things? Because actually ensuring people can access the train station through either public transport or by foot is perfect. We don't want to encourage people to drive to the train station. With the parking fees coming down the line, there was obviously, it kind of might counteract this proposal in terms of people then parking on roads and things like that. Have you synced up?
Well, I think I probably share the same goals in what you just outlined there.
Yeah.
Clearly, in other committees, you've got Bramley to Bramley Station, Bramley Centre, you've got Rothwell to Woolsford rail station. There's a whole host of opportunities to existing sustainable transport modes that we're trying to look at how we link in. Parking, you're quite right, is a key element, and it comes up a lot in terms of this consultation, but how we manage parking going forward and how we use that to sort of help with our wider goals is a key element of what we will have to look at going forward. The car parking in Guiseley is a little bit away from the station, and there's not much right on the station, but it's very close to the centre and it's very accessible by foot if we do safety improvements, because it's got the one road, if I remember, going in there, which doesn't really have good, strong facilities. So it's looking at those, which you've obviously already identified, and seeing how can we link to that urban centre, make it and just enhance the walking and cycling provision to that very, very, very useful sort of transit hub already. Do we look at mobility hubs? Do we look at all? There's a whole host of things we can do to potentially, if we had funding, to do enhancements which would encourage the right type of transport. So I suppose it's making sure it's in a plan that we're looking at it, and then we can then go back and say, look, we've got an idea, this is where we need to start. So that's it, exactly right, yeah.
Okay. I've probably got more questions, but that's fine for now. Thank you.
Councillor Thompson is next.
Thank you. Picking back up on that one, I think actually some of this may have been pulled, I'm not sure if some of this was pulled in from a previous consultation, because there was one a few years ago when there were approaches to building the multi-storey car park, and essentially what everybody said was no, but actually this is what we want instead. We don't want people driving to the station from outside Guiseley, coming in, hopping on the train and dumping their cars. We want accessible routes. So the funding that was set aside for the car park was moved to other projects where it was more needed. But then, of course, we were left with nothing to address some of those issues.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see the Airborough Greenway on there, because it is really lumpy and it crosses both our wards. But we've got big tree root problems at both ends.
Yeah, again, these are sort of draft proposals, but you're right, none of these are necessarily easy solutions, but it's targeting the areas using the consultation response. We know that we've got the general public and your residents are actually saying the same things. I think that's the important thing we're trying to get out of here. Thank you.
And Councillor Jones.
I'm intrigued. Westbrook Lane, which has 3 owners, some of it's unadopted, some of it isn't. The idea, and we still can't understand why there's parking restrictions on there. It's very, very strange to us, because trying to get anybody to fix that road is difficult. And as for putting a cycle lane on there, I assume it's going to be some cycling on there. I assume that that's going to be a mountain bike course, because that's the only way anybody with any sense would go down there. It's an extreme, there's potholes all over that road. So I'm slightly surprised that that's in this agenda, because we've tried repeatedly and we have 3 different answers and nobody takes responsibility. All we ever see is bits of it filled in by different people. So I'm confused at why unless we've now adopted it fully, I'd be surprised that we'd have too much say in it, to be absolutely honest.
Okay, that's something we will take back and confirm, Councillor. But clearly it's another one of those areas that people have got a point of concern. So that's why it's in there at the second. It'll then get communicated internally. And that's not disappointing to hear that we've not come back to you and sort of answered the questions quickly enough. Our team haven't. But now, if it gets fixed in a said report, or that we're looking to do something, because that's what the public effectively and yourselves are saying, and that gives us a bit more tie-in to go through the processes, saying we need to do something here. If that funding comes, we've got an idea or an area that we need to look at first. We've got to work out if we can do something and dismiss it effectively before can then move on. So I welcome that. Thank you.
And Barry Anderson, Councillor Anderson next. Thank you.
Just a couple of points. One is, are you going to meet with individual ward members to discuss the feasibility of the proposals that have come forward? And second, oh, there's actually three things altogether. Secondly, for example, the one that you've picked up, Farrer Lane, Tinsel Lane, that's actually technically in Wheatwood Ward. It's not in Adlan Wharfdale Ward. Got one of these anomalies that we've got miscellaneous lines drawn in the most peculiar places. I'm not against what's here, but that is actually a decision for the Wheatwood councillors to make as to whether or not they do or don't want it. Not up to me to interfere in somebody else's ward. But the final thing is, are you going to be talking to highways where they're already doing work? Because the other ones you've picked on here, Farrer Lane at the junction with Otley Road and also the Long Causeway, it's something that Johnny Waters is currently working on just now, trying to do feasibility. Some of this could, I emphasise, could have been put in by now if highways planners would actually say something when a planning application comes along, and we could have secured this funding and you could have spent it. But they specifically did not raise it at the time when there were major planning applications coming forward. So we've lost the opportunity. So that what I'm really saying is that you can secure a lot of this if some housing developments come forward. We're going to have to build 4,000 houses per annum for quite a few years to come. What I'm saying is, if you work with local ward members and get the planners, highways planners, to actually ask developers for the money, it will help you in delivering it. It's not that we're against it, it's just the problem is funding. And the reason for asking you the first question is, an example I'd give you is the Lonswood Roundabout, where that's being done to the community, not with the community. While there is support for the proposals at the Lonswood Roundabout, there is equally a significant minority who have problems with it. So we need to look after everybody's interests, not just those that shout loudest. You know, we've got to get everything all balanced out. So I'm not against what's happened at the Lonswood, but I just think that's an example of where it's been done to the community rather than with the community. And that goes for some of these other proposals, because there are downsides to some of those suggestions. It's not anywhere similar to Tranmere Park, but one of the areas you've picked on here doesn't have any pavements at all. So how you can suddenly introduce it without putting real conflicts in place? Because on Otley Road, we've been trying to get cycle lanes put through there, but the cycling lobby insist that the cycling lanes have got to be X yards wide. But because Otley Road is a major relief road in the event of an accident, it also has to be a certain width to enable large HGVs to be able to get through at speed in an emergency. So you can't increase the size of the traffic islands in the middle. You can't reduce the size of the road, because that road would then not meet the needs in an emergency of someone getting around the area. So you've got to think about it. Sounds great, but that's why I'm saying, if you speak to ward members, they'll be able to give you the granularity of the impact on the wards, because some of us have been, well, I've been fighting this since 1999, trying to get some of this
Councillor Anderson, should we allow the officer to now give a chance for reply? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. No, all these will, the process for this is we're just gaining a list of draft proposals. If any of these move forward, they will carry on through the standard processes that happens already. So that'll go to engagement, like the traffic team do already. So you will be involved, every step of the way. So that won't change. The thing that we're trying to do here is get ahead of the game a little bit, so that if funding does come forward, and we don't get stuck in this, some of these might be more expensive than the funding allows for the traffic team, that we can actually say, look, we've got all these schemes, central government effectively, there's bidding coming in for the CRSTS scheme, which is the major funding scheme 2, which is due out in 2027. We could actually get ahead and say, right, we've got this, this and this, and get additional funding to do things. So that's what's trying to do this, and there is more work happening, which you'll probably see over the coming months, which links into this, and it's allowing us to fast track certain elements which will lose the benefit. So that's definitely where we're coming from. So we're not trying to change the whole thing and miss people out and impose on the community. The very opposite, really. We're trying to get to the community earlier to come back to actually almost keep checks and balances with ourselves effectively and say, no, this is what we want to prioritise. So do it the right way. Not that we weren't doing it the right way before, but actually enhance the community element, which is what we're trying to do. In terms of the Wheatwood point, we'll look at, that is a challenge because clearly there's boundary effects of all these committee area, all these interventions that go across. So there's going to be, if there's a strong case for a cross-boundary effectively intervention, which will happen, I'm sure, then it's how we work together as community committees to make that work. I think that we need to have that on there, and how that goes into the reports we can work on between the people that are involved. But I think we don't want that to stop at the border effectively. What was the final question, sorry? You threw quite a few into me, apologies.
Yeah, but there are highways themselves are working on a number of these projects, and they've already identified reasons why. I mean, I'd like them all to be implemented tomorrow, don't get me wrong, but highways have already told me no. Johnny Waters is tired of telling me different ways of saying no.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, Jonathan Waters we deal with, and that's part of that. I touched on it a little bit in terms of the wider conversation of how we improve the efficiency of this, the current offer, effectively, in terms of what transport interactions and your engagement with us, to be fair, so that hopefully, our officers, Jonathan Waters people, he's not saying no as much because we've already had an information that started and linked it together. So I think, yeah, you're right. We know that there's certain things that don't work as well as they could do at the moment. I think my seniors will obviously explain this far better than me, but there is a need to maybe change slightly, and that's sort of what this is, an early element of that data collection, but there's a lot more we need to do.
And I also would like to take this opportunity to welcome Doreen and John Illingworth attending as the public today. And John, I believe that you had a question that you would like to ask also. Are you able to use your mic in front of you? It's slightly different. So you just press a button that shows to talk.
Press that. Talk now.
Success. Oh, thank you very much. Yes. Well, I was interested to see the development of more walking routes, particularly in relation to the proposals to devolve a lot of post-operative treatment of patients from a concern of the hospital to be a concern of the surrounding community. And that, I think, is government policy. But anyway, it's something likely to be presented to us and good to think about it. And also thinking about routes for recreational activity, running and jogging and so forth. It's important to get circular routes as far as possible, so it brings you back to where you started, and also routes of variable length, so that people have, just the right amount of exercise and not worn out by it. So I'm interested to see the way that this scheme develops, how we incorporate the transfer of patients from the hospital system, and how we make running and that kind of activity more attractive to people and doable. There is actually a good route with reasonable surface that you can get onto and enjoy yourself, as well as meeting whatever the consultant tells you.
Thank you very much, John. Did you want to reply to that, or should we take that as
no, thank you. That's really welcome, and that's sort of what we're trying to do. Part of this wider scheme is talking with our colleagues in public health, the council as well, because clearly the previous agenda item, that's what we're trying to encourage people to do more activity. Use a car when they need to, but there's lots of other ways you can do those shorter trips, especially between your local areas. It's important for us to ensure that people can do that safely and encourage that in the right way. So I think, I welcome that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you very much for the reports as well, and all the work that you and your team have put into this. Just a few quick observations, so we'll be quick. We've recently been approached by the police in our area about in relation to women's safety in particular, accessing public spaces, and with an offer for a PCSO or someone from the police to go out with local residents where there are areas where people maybe feel uncomfortable accessing. So my first question is about communication with the police. So presumably they will be getting feedback from residents about areas where women in particular feel unsafe walking, and it would be quite good to combine some of this work with some of the findings from the police. So I'd be interested to hear what communication there is with the police about the safe use of public spaces. Also, it would be helpful to know a little bit more about the relationship with the West Yorkshire Combined Authority as well. So I know that on many transport issues they are leading. So how does this, how do some of the proposed schemes in here tie in with the Combined Authority? Is there somebody within the Combined Authority who is leading? Is it being led within the City Council? It would be helpful to know that. You don't necessarily need to answer that right now, because I realise that it may differ from scheme to scheme, but I think as ward members, as a ward member, I would find that helpful, and I'm sure we would all find that useful. And the last thing, just an observation. You mentioned boundaries, I think, in response to Councillor Anderson. And I was a little surprised. We've got a boundary with Bradford. Well, we have several boundaries with Bradford, but one of them going from the High Roads estate into Menston. A lot of our residents access the train station in Menston. They access the bus station, but there's a bit of there's the main access route doesn't have any lighting, and it is somewhat complicated in terms of ownership and who has responsibility for that. But I was a little surprised to see that wasn't in here. It may well be that residents didn't report it, but it is an issue in terms of people on high roads accessing Menston rail station, which is in Bradford, and particularly in the winter months and at night. Thank you.
I think I've got all those down, but if you please let me know if I miss anything. So in terms of the safety element, safety women, girls and safe spaces, where everything is intrinsically linked with the Vision Zero strategy that we're operating across Leeds and West Yorkshire. It's a key goal for us internally, within our own strategy, within the Vision Zero strategy, the inclusive growth strategy, and obviously the Mayor's 2040 strategy as well. So that's embedded in everything we do. Safe routes for schools and things and all sorts of stuff. That's clearly is coming out in the consultation data, you know, because a lot of school children have great ways of getting around our communities that we can enhance. We know that they have to be safe, we know they have to be well lit, we know they have to be direct and actually serve a purpose. So that can help us drive a lot of that. So I assure you that is going throughout the wider process. In terms of WICA, this specific scheme is being funded through the Capacity Fund, which is a WICA, everything CRSTS. It also helps support other things, like there's a Healthy Streets and Communities schemes that's basically in, I think, Armley, Crossgates and some others areas. That the information from this will help support some of this work. So it is starting to link. That's directly working with the project team with WICA. So Leeds are almost taking the lead on this effectively. But if successful, we integrate it, then it could be something that WICA take on going forward. That's certainly what we hope to. That'll allow us continual funding to carry on doing things more than beyond the first initial sort of 10. And off we go, which we know was a query initially going forward. In terms of the high roads collection as well, we'll go back and look at that, but I think because it's in a different district, it can get quite complicated, but it has been mentioned. I mean, I think Joe lives very close to that area, so we do know there's a challenge there. So that's something that we can work in, probably within the wider sort of, you know, the local transport plans and the West Yorkshire elements are changing at the moment, so we can maybe look at things with our colleagues in Bradford and others to make that work. We were successful with the superhighway many years ago, so there's no reason we can't do with this on local levels, but this is where we need sort of your local member support to help us. But yeah. Did I get everything? Any more? Very good. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. And I just wanted to ask something also. In terms of the feedback, the 1,072 relevant comments, so that's brilliant engagement from what you might expect. And I just wondered if we might be looking at also using public engagement in person as well, so going out within communities and holding meetings, and if that could be part of maybe looking at how we'd go forward to increase the feedback as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we've been saying to all. Remember, the fact that we're here is the first stage in that. But yeah, we're more than welcome where time allows to go out and sort of educate and engage with various groups. We went to the I can't remember what the place was in Inner East. We've gone to various campaign groups and centres already around the wards to do some in face. There's not many of us to be able to do that at the moment, but that is definitely a key element of what we want to do. If we start to progress and go through some of the interventions, then the engagement really kick in at that point. And remember, this is far earlier than we would naturally do with bigger schemes, which I know was a concern of members earlier. So we're trying to listen to the concerns and actually actively start engaging with people very, very early, right at the beginning really, before we've even got a scheme effectively. It's just understanding what the problems are. You know, it was quite important that the consultation was based on issues. We could have put solutions there, and that was a debate we had internally, but it was clearly that we wanted to listen to the issues first and then see what solutions we can make afterwards based on that data. So we're trying to flip it slightly. So there's a little change that we're doing, but in person-to-person or face-to-face, call it what you will, engagement is a key element which will be fulfilled after this, along with the constant online engagement, because we need to use every tool in the box, basically.
And that makes brilliant sense, and that sounds really positive going forward as well. Thank you so much for attending today, and thank you for all the comments. I think it's worth... Sorry, yep.
Sorry, a quick question, just as you're doing your closing remarks. A quick question in terms of the responses from people. Have all of the respondents received some sort of email back or feedback from the team, just letting them know that it's now being compiled, that the report can be seen?
So the first thing that we want to do is come back to yourselves with sort of the main findings and the recommendations, and then if you can come back to us sort of by the end of the next 2 weeks with any feedback, and then at that point we're going to put the results online to be shared with residents that contributed, so it'll be accessible to everybody. And at that point we'll let you know that it's live as well. We just at this stage want your feedback in terms of the structure in the report and if we've missed anything.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, one last question. Okay. Councillor. I'm just very conscientious of time. I think we're notoriously quite a thorough questioning committee, which is brilliant, but also I'm just very conscientious of time. So, Councillor Anderson.
Is this the totality of the responses? Because in order for me to give you responses back, is there more information behind what we've got here? Yeah, yes or no?
There's always more data behind everything, to be fair. I can give you the raw data from the consultation if you want to see that, but we've had to pull lots of things out because clearly there's a lot of, you have to go through and sense check the data, clean the data, because there's some interesting comments, shall we say, that come through that are not necessarily what I would want to say in this professional environment.
Yeah.
But you're free to all the data if you want. So if these are the ones that's been condensed.
I'll be able to give you a better response than just the reduced response that we've got here. Because if there's more to it, because again, the example I'd give you is the pool to Ilkley, Burley, Greenway, which affects Otley as well. Is that something that was mentioned, yes or no? Because Poole Parish Council will not be at all happy if it's forgotten about.
I'll have to come through and check on the data, Councillor, but it could well have been. And I think I'd probably welcome maybe a separate conversation maybe to understand the level of detail you would like, Councillor. I'd open to that. Obviously, I don't want to delay the overall response back to the general public, but yeah.
Councillor Lay.
I think we have to remember this was the first stage, wasn't it? And this was an opportunity where, when you came before, you said the whole idea is that members of the public will be able to say, there should be a drop curb there because I've got a wheelchair or something, yeah? I'm fine with everything you've said. It was just an information gathering exercise at this point, isn't it? And it will be fleshed out with hopefully the community, and because this council consults 20 times when the shared hub was gone through in Otley's gone through about at least 6 iterations, and we're consulting again, so people get their chance to consult. And I just want to clarify, it is just the first stage, isn't it?
You're absolutely correct, yeah. And we're still finding our feet in how this will work and how this will fit into the wider system. We see the benefits, but clearly we need to go through that first to double check, yeah.
Are there any more questions or comments anyone would like to make? Okay, thank you so much for attending today and answering our questions as thoroughly as much as you could as well. Fantastic. And we look forward to welcoming you back when there is more to report. Thank you. So we'll be moving now on to agenda item 9, the finance report. Mohammed, could you present this report for us, please?
Thank you, Chair. Can I ask members to scroll over to paragraph 17 of the finance report? So the Out North West Community Committee started off with a budget of £85,513.09 at the start of the year, minusing any carryover projects and including all new approved projects for this year. The current remaining balance is £67,513.09 for the entire committee. The breakdown is as follows. Adam and Wharfdale currently have a remaining balance of £14,625.05. Guys in Warden currently have £10,343.33. Horsforth have £6,752.95. And Otley and Yeadon have £35,791.76. Remaining. There are currently 5 projects being considered by DDN, and 7 of those 5 projects have already been approved and considered by DDN. 7 projects are currently being processed for approval. They're currently either at processing stage, seeking final approval, or in the process of getting further information. Some of these projects include the new changing room development at Leeds Adult Hockey Club, the LED conversion of the theatre lights at Adult War Memorial Association, and a playground resurfacing project at Poole in Wharfdale Parish Council. We've got Rawdon Community Library, Art Camp, Geyser Christmas Lights, and Ardington Sid. We also have a couple of new projects that have come in today. Will be processed to members in the next couple of days to review and consider for approval. Moving on to paragraph 24, the Youth Activities Fund position. We started off the year with £53,584.54. As of today, the current remaining balance is £29,162.56. The Out North West Community Committee agreed to split the budget through per ward. Adam Wharfdale currently have £5,701.21. Guys in Rawdon currently have £8,662.38. Horsforth have £6,136.58. Notley and Yeadon have £8,662.39. I believe Councillor Lee has a question. Yeah.
Clarify a point of clarification, really, in paragraph 10, because this is now twice I've seen this referenced in our reports, and I'd like to know what a Subsidy Control Act 2022's impact on community committees is.
With the Subsidy Control Act, we do some checks prior to applications coming, as soon as applications come in. It's to make sure any organisations receiving funds of 100k and above comply with the rules, so they have to provide certain pieces of information before any grants are approved. We do that at the back office stage. At the start of the application stage, we fill out a form. If it falls within the criteria, it goes off to a subsidy control team, who then do further checks. So far, all our projects that apply to Out and North West don't fall within that criteria. So they should have, the organisations need to have received over £100,000 over the last 3 years from different sorts of funding, and need to show proof of that as well before they can apply for funding here.
The 100,000 is the line that you've got to cross
Yeah.
in 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not going to affect our community groups who come forward for in any shape or form, really, is it?
No, not unless it's a massive organisation that's going to come along and say they've got loads of money in the bank. But it doesn't affect any of the Out and North West community projects that are taking place or will come forward in the future. And if they do, I'll spot it before it goes to members for consideration, and I'll speak to the organisation to see if we can find a way around it. Okay, so moving on. Paragraph 27 shows the small grants and skips budget. Just to note, we had to top up the Guiseley and Rawdon as well as Horsforth over the last month with £500 from the wellbeing budget as we'd overspent. Some of the projects included the Guys Clock, Irish Arts and cultural activities, Otley's Carnival Skip, Yeading Carnival, Fab, Community Remembrance Reflection Garden, the Movie Meet, and the Otley Victorian Fair Skip, which formed part of the Skips and Small Grants budget. So the remaining balances currently stand at £540 for Adden and Wharfdale, Guys in Rawdon have £471, Horsforth have £1,211.17, and Otley and Yeading have £426. Moving on to capital budget. The capital budget remaining balance is £33,191.80. Adel and Wharfdale currently have £2,775. Guys in Rawdon have £2,046.60. Horsforth have £3,025.60. Otley and Yeading have £25,344.60. Moving on to the paragraph 29, community infrastructure levy budget. The current balance is £336,769.09. Adam Wharfdale currently have a remaining balance of £285,063.10. Guys in Rawdon have £47,394.11. Horsforth do not have a sale budget. And Otley and Yeading currently have £4,311.88 remaining.
Councillor Thompson.
Sorry, just it's just a slight, it's nothing anyone's done wrong, just I think there's been a bit of a copy and paste on table 4, because the dates go November 2024, November 2025. I think it's just been, the way it's been copied across the table, and Excel's probably done its thing. So they should all be, I think, TBC November 2024, bottom of page 55, with the capital budget. Because otherwise somebody's waiting 4 years for their capital injection.
Oh yeah, no, we haven't received the injection.
Yeah, it's just if you look across the third, fourth row, the dates have been... Yeah, it's the autofill in Excel probably. It's nothing major, just a tiny thing.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, that's an error. It was supposed to have prepared itself. Yeah, I'll fix that.
Okay.
So it should be showing, 20 November 2025 for all of them. So at the moment, Guide just shows 2026 and Horsforth shows 27 and Otley and Yeading showed 2028, but they all should be November 2024.
Sorry, yes, you're right, Councillor Thompson, that's Excel doing its thing, isn't it?
Right buttons. Can I just clarify, if the DDM procedure that you've talked about, if there are any problems, the earliest those decisions can be then made would be December. So if there's any problems at all, now some of these monies are time sensitive in that the sound system, there's an event taking place at Adel coming up, but then after that there's a gap, so they'll be able to invest in it if they can get the go-ahead now. Once the most recent show is concluded, they'll then be able to invest in the sound system. Because the hockey season has now finished, they are looking to try and get the work done before the hockey season starts up again. So in other words, they're trying to prioritise it, and Poole Parish Council have been waiting for months and months to get their play area sorted out, because it's actually dangerous at the moment, and they are, you know, squeaking by in terms of things. So if we have to delay it to December, that'll cause a problem. So how do we go about, what's the procedure?
So at the moment, with the ones that are in process of being approved through DDN, we're either waiting for confirmation from all three members from per ward. If we have a majority vote, so if we've got 2 out of the 3 in favour, it would automatically get processed after today's date, unless there's a request for it to go to the next committee. That would be the same case for all the other applications. With the other areas, Guyston Road and Nottingham Eden, I'll be holding separate meetings with the ward members just to discuss further information regarding some of the applications. But I'll set up the Teams meeting for those. Okay. Any other questions? Then the Ardington SID application, just to let you everybody know, I had it on here to discuss, but there's been an update. Currently, as things stand, highways are following up on an action to install a CCTV speed camera, but we're waiting on a survey and some assessments to be done before this application can move forward for consideration. So once we have those details, I'll sit down with the ADDL members and take it further from there. Yep, so it brings us close to the finance report. Moving on to the update report. So we've not had a Children Families subgroup meeting. One's due to be held this month.
Sorry, Mohammed, can I just pause you a second? Yeah. We just need to take a vote on checking that we're happy with the recommendations that are being made in the previous report.
Are they all okay? Yeah. Thank you.
So with the update report, the Children Family subgroup the update will be provided at the next community committee. The environment subgroup took place on the 15th of September 2024 to discuss refuse, so the recent glass collection progress, route review update. Apologies. Street cleansing and housing. Councillor Anderson and Councillor Thompson also met with Inspector Carl Robinson to hold a strategy meeting in regards to youth and older electric scooter and bike riders in our North West. I just want to see if Councillor Anderson or Councillor Thompson would like to add to that.
Yes, we did meet to try and do something about it. I personally haven't heard any update since then as to what they were planning to do, but at the time it was very comprehensive what they were talking about doing. I've not heard anything further on it, so if someone could find out what is happening, then that would certainly benefit me. Yes, we did discuss it in passing this morning at a meeting, but that was very in passing. The other things I'd like just to add are myself, Councillor Garvani and Councillor Jones also attended a briefing by the Antisocial Behaviour Unit, where they're talking about changing the way that we all work in terms of antisocial behaviour. So that's vitally, we should all be getting information on that coming through to us soon, but it is going to change the way that we're doing things. So that's something that's vitally important. And on the environmental side of things, there are certainly proposals ahead to introduce food waste sooner rather than later, probably in the existing brown bin, but not 100% confirmed yet. And the sort of issues that have been discussed and mentioned around that is, if we're doing that, is that going to be on a fortnightly basis or a weekly basis? Is it going to be on a 12-month, a year basis? Because that then, those of us who, in our wards, where we have a lot of garden refuse being produced, does that mean that there's going to be a service enhancement by the back door as a result of getting food waste? And also debates as to whether or not more than one brown bin would or would not be acceptable at a property. Because if you've got a large family with a reasonable amount of food waste being produced and other things, so we need to, these are all things that we need to discuss more fully. So if anybody's got any questions, I'm quite happy to answer them, but that's where we're up to.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. I think I've had the privilege of a bit of a heads up from Climate Emergency Board and discussing the questions which I think you were there too for. So I think if we had something like that maybe brought to committee to discuss. Can I just check in as well with Councillor Thompson in terms of that meeting, if there was anything you wanted to talk about too?
I'll follow up with Councillor Anderson on kind of picking up where things are. There was a brief mention of co-work this morning with Bradford, but that was as much as we got. The problems do seem, certainly in our patch, seem a little quieter at the moment, but we know they won't have gone away, so we'll arrange some follow-up. And I understand some funding's being sought from the Mayor as well for the off-road bike team, which is promising.
Fantastic, thank you. Shall I pass that back to you?
Okay, so the next community safety subgroup meetings due to take place in November, with the update being provided at the December Community Committee. We also have an update provided from LASBAT, which shows crime data broken down by ward. The Transport Committee is due to meet shortly over the next couple of months, and the update will be provided at the next Community Committee meeting. Health and Wellbeing. The Adults Health and Subgroup, Adults Health Subgroup are due to meet next month again, with the update being provided shortly after at the next Community Committee meeting. We do also have the Health and Wellbeing update provided by Health. Employment Services and Skills subgroup, again the update, sorry, Councillor Lay.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll just update the committee. We haven't met yet, and if you brothers don't reply, I'm going to have a meeting and it's going to be just me and Mohammed. I'm going to set some dates and we're going to crack on it because I've asked at least, well, I haven't had those replies.
We're waiting on one, I think it was Councillor Jones.
I haven't had those replies, as far as I'm aware, and the ones in September have passed, of course. But I would like to get on with them, so perhaps we could take that outside of Mohammed.
Yep.
I apologise to members who have replied, by the way, Councillor. But we haven't met yet.
Just to confirm, when Councillor Lay says, can we take that outside, it doesn't mean a fight.
So yeah, so the employment skills subgroup will meet shortly, and then with the update being provided at the next community committee. The employment skills universal credit update has been provided with data broken down across Leeds, up northwest. Okay, that brings us to the end of the update report. If members are happy with the points, please, are you happy to proceed? Yep. Thank you very much.
Councillor Anderson. I wasn't aware that that was part of our communication liaison either, but I think Councillor Jones had something that you wanted to add in on that.
explain exactly how it works and how it impacts on us locally. And that's what I'm chasing. But I'm not getting anywhere as yet, but I will persist, I assure you. At some point, it may be before I retire, but at some point somebody will come here, hopefully. Thank you.
So maybe if it's the case that Councillor Maloney is a representative for our area, that's something that we can look into, and if so, maybe look to engage on with as a community committee as well. But by all means, in the meantime, feel free to reach out if that's what you'd like to do. Sorry, so do all members now accept the recommendations of Mohammed? Fantastic. And agenda item 11, so looking at the date and time of our next meeting on Monday the 2nd of December at 1 p.m. The venue is yet to be confirmed, but just to confirm that we're all happy with this date and time. And this concludes the meeting.
Can we agree to the next location, the water?
Okay. So Mohammed's just mentioned, can we agree to the location? So I think, do we mean the area that it'll be in?
Yes. Yeah. Adden Wharfton or not, it's one of those two.
So it sounds like it's between Otley and Adel. These are the two locations that we've not been in recently. Is there any toss-up between the two? Okay.
Use local pressure, but no, in serious, there are a number of locations that we could potentially use now in Rockdale. But equally, if there's anywhere somewhere between Otley and, you know, in the area, then fine, I'm quite happy to where my only constraint is car parking. Every time I go to Otley, I get frightened I'm going to get a ticket because of, you know, where we have our meetings tends to be close to where the attendants seem to concentrate.
We haven't had a meeting in Otley for 7 years.
So
when? Was I there? Oh. I apologise again. I'm not having a good day, am I?
Some location in Adlam Wharfdale, I'll do it. If you want me to liaise with the Otley councillors to agree in a polite way how we will sort it out, then I'm quite happy to do that. If you just let me know how you want to deal with. Do you?
I'm going to pass this to Mohammed, that will be doing a lot of the arranging. So.
I mean, I'm happy to work with members. So if you decide between yourselves, if you want to go to Otley, Adel, send me the locations, and I'll do the rest.
Shall we say that we decide for Adel for the next meeting, and then we look into Otley after that, so that we're doing a fair round in each area.
Cool.
Yep.
Can I raise a point that I've raised before? It's just a point. It probably doesn't count for this meeting, but I've got to say that the sound system I'm finding very, very difficult to hear with. It's not good enough, and to be honest, it's not the first time I've said that, but I'm really struggling at various points. Now, they either need to put a loop in, or they need to sort it out one way or the other. So can we record that, please?
I'd like to also talk to you separately about that as well, see that what it is that we might be able to feed back. I'll talk to you later. Okay, I think that concludes the meeting. Thank you very much, everybody. You've been a friendly and contentious bunch. It's been great fun. Thank you. And thank you for members of the public that attended today. That's greatly welcomed, and we wish to have more people attend. So it's been great to see. Thank you.